Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the Week 9 matchup between the Arizona Cardinals and the Dallas Cowboys. You can catch this game on November 2nd at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and that will be aired on your local Fox affiliates. The Cardinals are 6-1 heading into this game, and the Cowboys are 6-2. The Cardinals started off with a 3-game winning streak, and then they lost to Denver, and then they're in the midst of another 3-game winning streak as we speak. So they started off by beating the Chargers in Arizona in Week 1, then they went to New York in Week 2 and beat the Giants. In Week 3, they hosted the 49ers and they won. They had their bye in Week 4. They then went to Denver and they lost that one pretty decisively as they lost by 3 touchdowns. Of course, it was a close game at one point, and they were without Carson Palmer, as Palmer missed 3 starts. And then in Week 6, they went to Washington. They actually hosted Washington, and they beat them by 10 points. Then they went to Oakland in Week 7, and they beat the Raiders. Then in Week 8, they hosted the Eagles as they beat Philadelphia by 4 points in a tight game between two very good teams. And then the Dallas Cowboys, they actually have their season thus far bookended with losses, with all of their wins coming in between them, as they actually won 6 in a row after losing their first game, as they, in Week 1, lost to the Niners in Dallas. Then they went on the road and they beat the Titans, and then they beat the Rams. Then they hosted the Saints and they beat them in Week 4. In Week 5, they hosted the Texans in the Battle of Texas, and they won in overtime by a field goal. Then in Week 6, they went to Seattle and won an impressive game against the Seahawks. Then in Week 7, they hosted the Giants and they beat them by 10 points. And then in Week 8 on Monday Night Football, the Redskins came into Dallas and beat them in overtime in a game that was a heartbreaker for Dallas fans and had Redskins fans saying, "Hail to the Redskins." So what's going to happen here in Week 9 when Arizona goes to Dallas? Personally, I got to go with Arizona. This isn't just like a reaction to Monday night. Anybody who heard my recap, I was kind of going off there. And I understand that Romo's tough. Yeah, he's tough. That's all well and good. But, being tough don't make you smart. And that's the thing, as a quarterback, you got to be smart. And if you're not smart enough to know that you're actually worse for your team by going in there when you're banged up like that. I mean, he didn't do nothing when he came back in. Whedon had put 10 points on the board. They got their team this year is about DeMarco Murray. He is the cornerstone of the Dallas Cowboys' success in this year. Tony Romo is he's a capable quarterback. He's good, but he's not he's not Drew Brees. He's not Aaron Rodgers. Tony Romo, like I said, he could win a championship, but it has to be with DeMarco Murray, a guy like that. Kind of like when Elway won with Terrell Davis. Well, Elway's way better than Tony Romo by far. Elway actually got the Broncos to those 3 Super Bowls they lost. Tony Romo ain't getting the Cowboys to a Super Bowl by himself. He needs a Terrell Davis just to get there. And that's DeMarco Murray, And I'm saying that comparison to Terrell Davis, he rushed for over 2,000 yards, and DeMarco Murray very well could do that this season. I mean, you saw at the end of that game when it was in overtime after the field goal, Romo's in there. The first play, DeMarco Murray runs for 8 yards. So they now, what do? They never handed it to him again, and they lost the game. So on 2nd and 2, they passed it to DeMarco on 2nd and 2. I mean, that's just being too smart, I guess, right? Trying to be real clever, hey, let's pass it to DeMarco Murray, and yeah, normally in a certain, during the game that would be a good idea. And I mean, obviously it is during the game, but it's overtime. Stop messing around. Let's just pound the rock and get it home. And you just at least get another field goal, maybe just run all the way down and get a touchdown. But they passed it to Marco Murray. He lost a yard, right? And that was because of good defense by Washington. But then on 3rd down and 3, pass the ball. and a bad decision making too. There was a guy wide open. I think it was Beasley, whatever. He goes to Witten. Of course, they're gonna be all over Witten on that situation. And also at 3rd and 3, you know it's 4-down territory at this point. Why not run the ball? You can say, oh well, they're expecting to run, but man, it don't matter. If you can run the ball, you run the ball. It don't matter if they know you're gonna run the ball because you got it in the trenches. And you got the freaking best running back in football, DeMarco Murray, this season for sure. So give it to him. But no, what do? They pass it. And so then what do they do on 4th down? Pass the ball again, go for another pass. And it's just ridiculous. Like, it was a play calling, too. It's not like it's just Romo. It's the play calling. And, I mean, that's kind of stuff. That's why freaking playing that kind of junk football, that's why they always freaking, been coming up short for a long time. They've been since, back in them days with Troy Aikman and Mike Lerman and Emmitt Smith. That's the last time, the Cowboys won it all. And if they gonna be, doing stuff like that, they ain't going nowhere. I mean, it's all well and good they're 6-2, and they still could make a run, and they'll get everybody excited and everything. Like, yeah, I mean, hey, let me tell you, you don't know how many times, like, I've been, like, let down by this Cowboys, like, era. So it's not like as if I'm just, like, jumping on and off the freaking bandwagon. It's like, I've freaking seen a lot of freaking Cowboys football, a lot of Tony Romo disappointment. Like I said, maybe, people say, oh, it's not being fair to Romo, he's a tough guy. He got injured. It's not his fault. Yes, it's not his fault he got injured, but stay on the sideline, man. And then, like, that whole thing, he goes back and takes a shot. Like, that's something, like, we're supposed to look up to him because he took a shot and went back on the field. That is not, I mean, like, okay, it's tough, but that's just dumb. And it's, like, bad for him, too. Like, that ain't right. You can't, I mean, I know that that's football, and they've been doing that forever. And, hell, they made the movie North Dallas 40 or whatever, the book and the movie about it. And they know that was about that kind of stuff, right? But, man, like, and then even to be, like, bragging about, like, hey, I took a shot, went back in there like a moron because I was all doped up off the shot. And they're like, they just shot him full of friggin', Motrin or whatever. Yeah, okay. But regardless, man, that's just not right. Is he a horse? Like, you just shoot him up and throw him on the field. Like, that ain't even right, man. Like, regardless, like, Tony Romo, he's a human being, and he's going to have to actually have a life after football. And so it's like, when I'm talking about him, whatever, that's just football on the field, whatever. It's not nothing personal. And I actually do care about his personal well-being and his health. And I don't think he should be out there risking his future as a person on the earth to actually be able to walk and not be in a wheelchair when he gets old. I mean, the guy's banged up as it is. His back's all messed up. And then to take a shot and go back in the game, man, don't go back in the game. Stay on the sideline. Let Brandon Weeden do it, Like, for real. And the thing is, Romo probably ain't playing this game. If he does play this game, he's a fool. They're fools. Like, don't let him play. He's banged up. Let the man get healthy. Brandon Weeden was doing fine when he was in there. If Brandon Weeden would have stayed in for the end of the game, they would have won this game. They would have had a better chance at winning that game last week. But in this game right here against the Cardinals, Carson Palmer is healthy. He's come back. He showed what he's doing. And you look at Carson Palmer throughout, his starts this season. He started the season throwing for 300 in that first game. Then, in week 6 and 7, he threw for over 250. And last week against Philadelphia, he put up 329. And I expect Carson Palmer to have a huge day against Dallas this week. Let's look inside these numbers. When it comes to passing offense, the Cardinals are 15th in the NFL in passing proficiency in terms of yards through the air per game. The Dallas Cowboys are 16th in the NFL in passing. When it comes to passing defense, though, the Cardinals are dead last. They are 32nd in the NFL in passing defense in terms of yards allowed per game. The Cowboys are 15th. So right there, you actually got to give the edge to the Cowboys. It's interesting, too, because it's like the Cardinals, they got some good players in their secondary, and that's something I've been scratching my head at all season long. Like, what is up with that Cardinals secondary They let up a lot of yards. They don't let up the points, as we will get into soon. But when it comes to yards, they will let up the yards through the air. But I will address that in a moment. But right there, just the numbers give the edge to Dallas, even though it's kind of a facade. But now let's look at when it comes to the running offense. We'll see that the Cardinals are actually 28th in rushing yards per game. The Cowboys are number 1. They are the number 1 team when it comes to running the ball. DeMarco Murray's having an amazing season. But they are up against the number 3 defense when it comes to yards allowed on the ground, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. They are number 3 in run defense. The Cowboys, on the other hand, they are 19th in run defense. So when it comes to run the ball, you got to give the edge to the Cowboys. Although the Cardinals can stop the run, the Cowboys are the first. So it's number 1 versus number 3 in terms of that matchup. On the other side, Cardinals 28 against the 19th ranked defense on the ground. The Cowboys, that matchup also favors Dallas, so they definitely got the advantage on paper on the ground as well. Even more of an advantage for sure, because the Cardinals struggle running the ball. They don't really run it. They're not much of a running team. Not yet this year has any Cardinal rushed for over 100 yards. The closest they came was in week 2 in New York against the Giants. Arlington rushed for 91 yards. That was their top rushing performance this season. Whereas DeMarco Murray, he's been tearing it up. He's one of the best for sure. He's number 1. That's all there is to say. So then we look at points scored, and the Cardinals are 15th in the NFL in points scored per game. The Dallas Cowboys are 8th. When it comes to points allowed, the Cardinals are 5th, and the Cowboys are 9th. So right there, it's a little bit closer. I mean, it could go either way, in this, in terms of how the numbers match up. Technically, you would have to give it to Dallas again. They have a slight advantage here in this category as well. So Dallas on paper has the better numbers than Arizona, but the games ain't played on paper, they're played on the field. And the thing about Arizona is that they got a team, they bend, but they don't break when it comes to the air and their defense. What they do is they stuff the run, they come up front, they load it up in the box, they leave their guys out on islands, and then they be like blitzing and everything. And so they let up some yards, through the pass. But it pays off because they don't let anybody in the end zone. They do let up them field goals, and they have some close games because of that. But they're not going to let teams in the end zone. It will be interesting to see, though, what Dallas does. The only way Dallas wins this game, really, is if they just keep pounding the rock. And I actually do expect them to do that. Especially if Tony Romo's not in the game. It should just be pounding the rock, pounding the rock, pounding the rock. But even still, I think Arizona will be able to hold them to the point where they keep it a close game. And if it's a close game in the final moments, the Cardinals will find a way to put the ball in Carson Palmer's hands. And when the ball is in Carson Palmer's hands and it's a one-possession game, you cannot count the Cardinals out because they have the receiving talent. And also Carson Palmer is such a good veteran. Like, he has that presence to where he keeps his cool and he makes a big play. And they have he's like the most accurate deep passer other than Aaron Rodgers. And what he does is Carson Palmer pulls out plays. Like last week, he actually was below 50 in his completion percentage. He was like 20 for 42. But he threw for 329 yards, and he made some huge plays, in the passing game. And if they can do that again, I mean, at any moment, the Cardinals are a danger to get to the end zone. It just takes that one pass, that one completion, and when them receivers, they catch it in stride and they go. They get, tremendous yards after catch, and that right there is going to be the difference. As maybe even it doesn't come down to that, but that's kind of how I see it happening. I think that, DeMarco Murray will get a couple touchdowns. He'll have a big day. He might have like 200 rushing yards, maybe more. We could see some history. Who knows? But then on the other side, though, Arizona's going to make the plays to keep them close. And then in the end, Arizona's going to pull off a late victory. They might already be in the lead and not have to actually score in the end to come back to win. But if they need to, I see Carson Palmer pulling off the fourth quarter comeback. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Very interested to read your opinions. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button. And if you would like more of this content, go ahead and subscribe, because we bring you upon further reviews and recaps of each and every single game, each and every single week in the NFL throughout the season and the playoffs, including the Super Bowl. We also just got done covering the baseball playoffs, so feel free to check out our recaps from all the MLB playoffs through the World Series. The Giants are now the World Series champions. We also do some college football. We had to take a couple weeks off during the baseball playoffs, but now that that's over, we should be getting back to covering college football. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. Hope you're having a good day and a great weekend, and enjoy all of the sports.